Hello dear World of Warcraft friends, welcome back to a new video on my channel. Today it's about patch 12.1 and a few changes that Blizzard is making to the add-on API. In the end, this is causing that add-ons and even Blizzard's cooldown manager become a bit stronger, and you can once again create alerts and more according to your own needs and preferences. That means no, this won't turn into Weak Aura 2.0, at least not as of now. But add-ons are getting a bit more punch again. And I can imagine that this will lead the community to create things that could be very, very interesting. So let's take a look at the whole thing. If you want, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, tell me what you think about the whole thing, and with that, let's get started. The only thing you need to keep in mind is you need, of course, as the name suggests, add-ons for it. Originally you might think that maybe the cooldown manager itself would get stronger this way, but you only unlock its full potential with the help of external add-ons. And that's something I personally find unfortunate. In my opinion, they missed the opportunity here to give players something directly in-game to give them more variations, but this is the first place we see it. This is the add-on Northern Sky Raid tools on the PTR. And there we see you can now create your own alerts there, which wasn't possible in this way before the patch. So that means we can see that here with this example, you're searching for a specific debuff. Just type anything here. For example, you have problems with a new raid mechanic or from the new Mythic Plus dungeons and so on. You can then search for it in this add-on. Then you can simply specify where the anchor points should be, so where it will be displayed, how big it should be. Does it have any special effects, like should it glow, should it zoom, whatever, and that's it. So it's not quite as powerful as it used to be, but now, hypothetically speaking, of course, there are already boss mods and so on that show you things. But if you look here now, for example, with the Orphan Verix, we have this debuff that gets thrown onto players, this Solar Discharge. And yes, you then get the debuff displayed here through an add-on, and you can also display it elsewhere. But with these options, you can, for example, set it so that as soon as you have the debuff here, a really big icon pops up in the middle of the screen, and so on and so forth, and you get warned. So that gives you a bit more flexibility there. However, it has to be said, the whole thing only works within the guidelines that Blizzard allows us. One thing, if you follow my second channel, is where I could really use a weak aura, for example, because I often don't see or haven't seen it, is in the Windwalker Windlifer Tower on the way to the third boss. There you have these riders who let out a scream that interrupts you if you're casting during it, and then you can't cast for a few seconds. Before, you had a weak aura for that, which would show you stop casting in, I don't know, 2 seconds. You won't be able to display that in the future, and we can see that here as well. There's a relatively big post about it. For example, you can only track debuffs on enemies. So that means such a cast is not a debuff and therefore can't be tracked. But this gives you the option to create your own dot trackers, for example. Or pandemic warnings, meaning the hints for when you should refresh a debuff. For allies, you can only track buffs. So in other words, if enemies buff themselves, you can't create an alert for that, and if your allies have a debuff, that doesn't work either. But that means, like in this case, you can create alerts for things like power infusion, and so on. So yeah. Within this framework, there are no limits for you, and that's very interesting. You can now also assign an audio cue to all these auras. And that's something I personally found very, very useful with weak auras. For example, you get debuff XY in a fight where things are really chaotic. But when a sound notification plays, you know, okay, something just happened, and you have another sense you can use to focus on it. So I actually find the whole thing really, really, really powerful. And actually, at least from a certain level onwards, you actually put yourself at a disadvantage if you don't use it. We can also see here that an add-on is being used to further extend the cooldown manager in Blizzard's own UI. You can add even more things here, have them tracked, edit them, and so on. But again, you need an add-on for that, and that's something I would expect from Blizzard or in Blizzard's place. I don't understand, yeah. Originally, they said they wanted to give players the same foundation. It was announced as leveling the playing field. In other words, everyone has the same tools available. And in the end, that's just not the case again, because people who use add-ons have a much better cooldown manager. And people who use even more add-ons can create an even better version with custom timers and other features. Personally, that doesn't bother me at all, so I don't know. You can say whatever you want about it. Call me an add-on victim or whatever. But it really is a huge help to have, for example, audio notifications that support you. And I think there will be special profiles for Mythic Plus again, which will give you a clear advantage. But actually, Blizzard already undoes what they originally announced after a patch. Namely, that you shouldn't have to download add-ons to understand or play the game, and you shouldn't get any combat advantages from them. Yeah, that's definitely no longer the case now. Alright, what do you think about it? Feel free to write it in the comments, and with that, thanks for watching, see you in the next video, have a good time, and take care.